It's time to talk about Samus. Welcome back, everybody, to another Super Smash Bros. Brawl character analysis episode. Now, be warned, this episode will probably be the longest episode in the character analysis series, and probably double the amount of time of my previous episodes. All of you have been following me long enough, or even seen a few of my other videos, should probably know that Samus is my main by now. If you don't, you must be skipping that intro pretty quickly. Anyway, we're on to my favorite character of the game. Now let's talk about a few of Samus's attributes. Samus has medium speed, a lighter character on the game unfortunately. You would think Samus, with all that armor, would weigh a lot more. Unfortunately, this obviously means for Samus that she's gonna die a whole lot earlier. But let's get into some of the strengths of Samus, and the main strength of Samus is obviously all the projectiles. Samus, in my opinion, is the second best projectile character in the game, only behind Snake. The gun on Samus's arm is lethal, shooting projectiles at the opponent, but once that opponent finally gets up to you, let's just say the gun is of not much use in close-up combat, as Samus's close-up moves have gotta be some of the weakest in the game. They are so slow coming out, pretty easy to avoid, but if you can just have your charge shot charged up, your opponent will be constantly weary of you, and that's the only time that Samus can land those nasty close-up moves. The number one thing you should do with Samus is whenever you have a break in the game, if you knock your opponent off the ledge, your opponent's far away from you, whenever you have a chance, charge up the charge shot. The thing is lethal, and it's a great weapon to have something where you can rack up 25% damage on your opponents and not even have to be near them to do it. It's got a huge hitbox, obviously, as is easily Samus's most powerful and most useful move. Samus's aerials are actually pretty good. The forward air and up air have huge hitboxes, and the up air is virtually invincible. Unfortunately, there were two main moves from Melee that got nerfed heavily for Samus. It was Samus's bomb and Samus's grab. These two moves were incredibly useful because they slowly racked up your opponent's damage, and it was a very safe move. Now with every character, it's important to have a good grab. Well, unfortunately for Samus, it's not good at all. It's gotta be one of the worst grabs in the game. I have to say, Samus's grab looks like, with that big whip coming out of the gun, it looks like that'd be very easy to grab your opponent with. It's not. That move was pretty easy to land with Melee. They nerfed that one heavy. Your opponent practically has to be on top of you for it to hit him, which is ridiculous because look how long that whip is. And then Samus's bombs are pretty much a joke on this game. So here's the deal with Samus's bombs. So if you're above your opponent, which is a pretty vulnerable position, the bombs sound like a good option. Samus drops the bombs on the opponent and turns into a small ball, so it's very hard for the opponent to hit them, right? Unfortunately, the bombs, you have to be so close to the opponent because the bombs explode very early. You can't just drop Samus's bombs from like way above your opponents and they go all the way down quickly and hit the opponent. If they did, that would be a great move. But unfortunately, the bombs come down super slow and they explode super early. So you have to be just the right amount of range between your opponent, which is not very far from them because that bomb's exploding early, which then leaves Samus vulnerable to get up smashed by the opponent, which I'm pretty sure every character's up smash does more than 3% because that's the amount of damage Samus's bombs do. Whenever Samus gets hit up in the air like that, you're pretty much toast. Samus's air mobility is not great on this game, so it's hard to get away from the opponent in the air. So you feel like your only option is those bombs, and then, as I said before, they'll just rack up the damage on you when you try and do that, and they'll only take 3% if it even hits them in the first place. Now, I don't want to end this video on a sour note, and you're probably wondering, I thought this guy said this was his favorite character. Yeah, you're right, this is my favorite character. And I do seem a little upset because there are obviously a lot of things I found wrong with the character, just playing with the character for really long. But the one thing I have never found wrong with Samus is the projectiles. The projectiles are there for you. You got the rocket guided missiles. Those are great if your opponent is beneath you or over top you. If your opponent is straight on away from you, pop them up with those missiles that go super fast and rack up more damage than the rockets. And then when you got your opponent distracted, charge up that charge shot. They get hit by that so long, but I do think that the charge shot, even the charge shot, has been nerfed a little bit on this game. The other thing that's difficult with Samus is the kill moves. Samus's charge shot is really the only reliable one, and that's what most of your opponents will look out for. Honestly, the down smash isn't a bad one for killing your opponent, but it is hard to find a situation where that would be useful. Samus's side smash isn't exactly the best either. So that's the main issue with Samus, is the kill moves, not reliable. But if you're able to camp out your opponent, you can rack up some serious damage before they ever even get near you. Another reason I really like Samus is because she really presents a challenge to the player who's using her. She can be a really good character if used correctly, but in the wrong hands, someone who tries to play close up, just not gonna happen. And the final thing we'll talk about is Samus's final smash, which I previously ranked number 1 in the top 10 final smash video. If you want to, go check that out. But there are definitely a few things I would change on the list, and Samus's final smash would be one of them. It is a really good final smash. It would probably still make the top 10 list, but it is decently easy to avoid just because as soon as Samus starts up into that huge laser beam, there is a couple of seconds there for the opponent to quickly go up in the air and get out of the way. But if you are even near the laser, it will suck you right into it, and you're pretty much gone at that point. But all these things lead to Samus being in the mid-tier. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, remember, Samus is a good character on Super Smash Bros. Brawl, only in the right hands. This is Joel Cook saying see you next time.